Hi, welcome to another brand new episode of CPOV Autographs. I, of course, am Matt, aka Stormageddon. And before we get into this week's episode, I just want to put out a call to all of y'all listening out there. If you know a creator, an artist, an interesting human on this planet or other planets that you would love to hear me interview, feel free to join our Discord server at certainpov.com. There's a permanent invite link there, and drop it in our guest suggestion channel. It's not just for my show, it's actually for all the shows that feature guests on the network, but we're always looking for cool, interesting, and different people to chat with on all of our shows. You can also email me directly at mr.matt.storm@gmail.com, but I'm always looking for folks outside my purview, experiences outside my experience range, and really cool folks to chat with. So if you have any ideas, suggestions, feel free to hit me up and let me know. But enough about that. This week, I'm talking with the incredible Ash Blodgett. She is a director, writer, cinematographer, podcaster, gigantic nerd, and really cool person. We've been friends for a while now, and I've been wanting to have her on the show for ages, and so I'm so glad that she got to chat with me. We talk about her short films, we talk about her podcasts, we talk about how she got started as a director, and much, much more. So without further ado, here's my incredible, delightful, and fun conversation with Ash Blodgett. I'm doing okay. I'm tired all the time, but other than that, I'm fine.
You know what? I'm tired all the time too, and my boyfriend's mom just suggested that I try taking iron. She was like, maybe you're iron deficient, and I started taking it, and I've totally seen a difference.
Yeah, for me, it's mostly just that I stay up too late.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I was like going to bed at 10, waking up at 7, and waking up tired, even though I slept. And I was like, I still feel exhausted. I feel like I could bump my levels a little bit there. How about now? Oh, now this is too loud. Okay, I'm turning it back down.
This is fine. You're fine. I can always adjust the individual track on its own later, too.
Cool.
I've done this a time or two, so...
Are you a podcaster?
I know, right? So weird.
It's so good to see you.
It is so good to see you, too.
Yeah.
I am chatting today with the incredible Ash Blodgett. I said that correctly, right? It is Blodgett, yeah?
Yeah.
Last name.
Yeah,
excellent.
like a really boring jet. Blodgett.
Oh, ha.
Yeah.
Love that. Great. That's excellent. That's staying in the final episode. I'm very excited to talk to you, Ash. We became friends through adjacently to the Certain POV podcast network before your podcast joined the network.
Yeah.
And I got to be a guest on the pod also a while back. And since then, it's become old hat. I've been a guest a ton of times, much to everyone's dismay. I keep showing up.
You're the guest that goes, excuse me, I'd like to be back.
I'd like to come back. Excuse me, I was thinking about this movie and now we're going to talk about it.
Like everyone always records and says that they want to come back, but you're the one that's like sending emails like, no, I have a movie picked out and everything, which is great. I love it.
Of course, we're talking about your incredible podcast, Let's Rewatch, which I've come on to talk about Army of Darkness with my co-host, Rachel Quirky Shank. I've come on to talk about Scott Pilgrim and The Dark Knight. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Didn't I do
Three
one
times
before?
Lady.
I can't remember if I did one before Rachel, though, came on. I feel like
I thought you did because then we had you
too.
back with Rachel.
I've
lost
remember.
count.
Yeah, me too.
There's no way to know this information.
No, I could have looked it up, but why would I? Before we start talking about podcasts and stuff, though, I do want to talk a little bit about things of yours that we haven't really gotten to chat a lot about, which is your film work. You're a director, you're a writer, you do pretty much all of the film required things, though you're
all of the things.
You're often a director of many of your projects. You do like all the things. I feel like as an indie creator, we're all doing all the things all the time. We can't really just do one thing anyway.
Yeah. You have to.
But I wanted to start by talking about your directing and how you got started directing. I assume you went to school for it, but like, was that like... So with actors and musicians and like comedians, they all have that moment of clarity as a child, like, I'm going to do the thing. Mm-hmm. But I never really hear those stories from directors. Is that a thing that you experienced? Like you were watching movies and you were like, I want to do that. I want to make these things.
Yeah, so my dad had a real passion for movies and he loved them and he loved sharing them with me at maybe an age that he shouldn't have. So like I saw Rocky Horror Picture Show very young along
Ooh,
with
nice.
Clockwork Orange and yeah. So he also really loves Star Wars, so he would share, we would watch all the Star Wars movies together and he loved like he wasn't a filmmaker himself, and nor did he ever really own a camera or anything, but he loved reading and hearing about stories of like the behind the scenes. And so sort of my love for movies came from him initially. And then early on in, in like, I think, gosh, not middle school, but high school, there was like I was a drama kid, an art drama kid. So I loved writing as well. Like I wrote like an entire like novel in like middle school.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and which has never seen the light of day because it was all handwritten and I lent the notebook to somebody who never gave it back.
No.
Yeah,
oh my God.
It was like 3 notebooks and I'm pretty sure, Thomas, that you did it on purpose because
Rude.
I think you hated me secretly. Anyway, but he was always like, no, I don't know where it is. And then when I would see him in public, he would literally like turn and go the other way. Anyway, whatever. If you're listening, he's not.
Clearly you've held this grudge.
I have, because it was like the first thing that I wrote,
Right.
and completely finished. Anyway, and it had drawings and everything. Anyway, I can cry. It's not like it's good. It wasn't good. Let's be honest.
I mean, how do you know it's so long ago?
Because I still, so it's like, it was in 3 notebooks and I still have 2 of them. I just don't have the first one. And I have gone through and I was like, I'm going to rewrite this and type it. And I've been like, this is terrible. Never mind. Anyway, he probably did me a favor. But anyway, so I was a drama kid, art kid. And I was really frustrated with art because I had been taking it since like 4th grade. And then in middle school, our art teacher, this is going to be a really long story, sorry. But
no, it's fine.
I actually did like a Twitter tweet about this like several months ago of my whole journey to where I got here. But in middle school, for some reason, our middle school couldn't keep the same art teacher. I was very dead set, like I was going to be an artist. I loved drawing. And so we had like 6 different art teachers in the period of 1 year. And every time a new art teacher came in, they wanted to start all over with the basics, with perspective and shading and shapes. And we were so bored of drawing circles and squares.
Right.
And so I would like be like, okay, well, I'm going to actually draw buildings or whatever. And I would get reprimanded for it because they were like,
too advanced.
yeah,
like, how
they were
dare
like,
you?
That's not what we're doing. So finally a friend of mine was like, come to the drama class instead. It's really fun. And so I did, and I really loved it, but I hated being in front of a camera, which is so ironic now because I'm in front of a camera all the time. But yeah. I hated being in front of a camera and I hated like seeing myself on stage, but I loved telling stories and I also really loved writing. And so I was like into it. And then in high school, there was a video production class that I had a boyfriend that I was dating at the time was in, and he was like, it's a total easy A. And I was like, all right, well, I really like you, so I'm going to be in it, And then I realized, oh my gosh, here's this world where I can combine writing and art and storytelling and acting and all of those things into one. And I can be behind the camera directing people and being like, no, this is my vision. Because when I have a vision for something, I see it already like edited in my head and everything. And so that was the first time I started learning like video editing and camera. And my parents bought me, or I think a family member gave me a mini DV camera. Remember those?
Yeah.
I still have it. And I still have all the tapes, which I'm hoping never see the light of day either because they're terrible. But I started very early in high school just filming silly sketches and stuff with my friends. And they started getting more elaborate and more elaborate. I even did an entire music video once. That was super fun. Yeah, we even like shot at night and used like candlelight. Like I got super into it. And I realized that I really liked bossing people around. Just kidding.
Shocking.
Yeah. No, not bossing people around, but I really like, being the leader, I guess. I've always been a person who's very much a leader. Even with my friend group through high school, I was the one that was like, all right, let's get everyone together and let's gather someplace, and here's the date and time, and I'm like the one organizing it and driving the car and picking everyone up. So I realized that I really like doing that, and so very early on I wanted to be a director because my dad would tell me about George Lucas and how he did this and how he did that, and I was very inspired. And so I ended up going to Brooks Institute of Photography and studying directing. And if you're looking at Brooks right now, yeah, they don't exist anymore. They went out of business. Yeah, that's a whole other wild story. So they spectacularly exploded and ended up owing the city a bunch of money because they were renovating a whole building that was owned by the city that they were going to move into. Yeah, talk to anyone who went to Brooks and they will have some crazy stories for you about that. Basically, it was a really prestigious school that was bought by what was that? It was bought by this corporation that buys trade schools. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they buy trade schools and then they cut their budget in half and just run them into the ground. And they say, keep doing what you're doing on half your budget, and we're just going to milk you like a cow until there's no milk left, and then you go bankrupt and the school closes. And CEC, I think, was the name of the corporation. They own a really prestigious cooking school that they did that to as well. And anyway, yeah. So it's that's the that's the short story version of how I got where I got, but. I remember even going to school and them, the teachers being like, everyone thinks they want to be a director, but you probably don't actually. And I was like, actually, I do. I do.
I know what I want. Yeah. Excuse you.
Yeah. But I understand why they said that, because a lot of people think, they want to be a director because it's the glamorous thing to do. But being an indie, I'm here to tell you, being an indie director is anything but glamorous. So
yeah. So is being an indie podcaster is definitely not glamorous at all.
No, yeah. You're doing all the jobs,
Totally. Well, I mean, it's funny because I met you through podcasting and I knew you through podcasting, and I didn't know your work for a long time. And then this year you put out a short film called Joining Call, which I had started hearing about and got to follow the process of, and since have gone back and watched your other films.
Oh.
I think my favorite is your short film Zombie Debt, and I want to talk about that one first because that one's made the rounds. You've been at a lot of film festivals with it. It's won awards. So I want to talk a little bit about the inspiration for Zombie Debt, because for those who don't know, the elevator pitch is, what if the only thing surviving the apocalypse besides a survivor is a tax collector or a student loan collector and
debt collector.
And are they worse than the zombies? Short answer is yes, they are definitely worse than the zombies. But it's a brilliant 4-minute film. It made me laugh out loud so many times. Where did this come from? How did this begin? Because I know you're the director. I know that it had been making the festival circuit for a while before it actually finally released. And so I'm just curious about this process and where Zombie Debt came from.
Yeah, so Zombie Debt is the brainchild of Rose Mesa, who is my filmmaking partner in crime. Besides Pat, Pat's also he's the new addition as of Joining Call. But Rose came up with this idea, and she approached me because I have a YouTube channel called Laugh/TV where I do, or did, I haven't really in a long time, but I did a lot of sketch comedy and parody type stuff. And she said, Rose is a super funny person, and she was like, I came up with this idea, I think it's really funny, and I think it'd be great for Laugh/TV. And I think she gave me this, she either gave me the first script or she pitched the idea to me, and I was like, this is great, but in sketch comedy, you have to have what's called a button, and a button is one final really funny gag, or just it doesn't even have to be really funny. You just have to have a button. So I was like, it needs this button. And so then she went back to the drawing board and came back and had the hilarious button of, well, what if the debt collector, because for those who haven't seen Zombie Debt, well, pause the recording and go watch it. It's 4 minutes. You have time. It's
You have time. We'll be here when you come back. I promise.
Yeah. It's just go to YouTube and search Zombie Debt short film. You'll find it. It's the top result. My SEO is good. And anyway, it's, what if the debt collector, instead of going after the one survivor, was also going after the zombies as well,
right.
like collecting debt. And that's where I think it really gets into this, we're making social commentary with this film that, that student loans are so, debt collectors are so cutthroat, really, in trying to get you to pay. And so she came up with this idea, and both of us being millennials who went to college and have an incredibly large, college student loan debt, both really related to it. And so we were like, yeah, let's do this. And we were just sort of going to do it on this like shoestring budget. And originally it was going to be for Laugh Stash TV. But as we were doing it, we were like, you know what? This could be more. Like, what if we make it into a short film? And so because Rose lives in Santa Barbara, where the Santa Barbara International Film Festival is, and they have a local category. So we're like, what if we submit to Santa Barbara? And I think we shot it literally like 2 months before the deadline, this was like the fastest turnaround I've ever had on a film, where it was like, oh my God, we have to shoot this and get this done. And we decided to hire the fantastic Nick Pasick, who came up with this awesome like ending credit sequence that really made it feel more like a film, and even like pushed the story and expanded on the world even more, which is what I really like about it, because he did all these really fun drawings of like zombies and different scenarios of the debt collector and stuff like that. So the Lone Ranger, as he's actually called.
Yeah, he calls himself the Lone Ranger. We all love a good pun. Well, like, what's astonishing to me, I mean, I'm not surprised. I've watched it, but like, you have on the awards section of your website, it's won a lot of awards.
Yeah.
Best comedy micro, best cinematography, best micro short horror comedy, best director award, best micro short, like best ultra short film, like just so many awards. And so that must feel really good to at least get some recognition for this thing that you must have put a lot of work into. What I also love about Zombie Debt is that the cast is so, like, you don't get to spend a lot of time with them, but you immediately know them within seconds. And like, I love that button at the end where, the zombie, in every zombie movie, there's that last grab, right? Like, that's like in Resident Evil, in Last of Us, like, in movies, Army of the Dead, whatever, Army of Darkness even, there's always that zombie grab where they grab the person, they're going to kill them, like they're not really dead. And you use that bit that's very specifically a horror bit, but instead he grabs this debt collector, the Lone Ranger, and the Lone Ranger goes, oh, I recognize you. Don't you owe me? And then it's just the zombie running from him. I think that's such a brilliant way to take a trope that's so obvious and turn it on its head. Yeah.
And that was all Rose. Is she just brilliantly, took my feedback and then came up with this brilliant ending. All I said was there needs to be a really big joke here. That's all I gave, the feedback I gave her. And when she gave it to me, the final draft, I was like, oh my God. And then she kept adding, like, the Lone Ranger joke. I think she added like days before we shot. Like, she just kept adding jokes to it, which were so great.
How did the casting process work for this?
So, I'm kind of I guess I'm not a weird director. There's people like that, like Wes Anderson and whatnot. Like, or Judd Apatow. I love working with the same people. And so I've worked with Brittany and Daleks before. Daleks is the zombie. Daleks always plays my zombie.
Nice.
And he even got to play a zombie on Fear the Walking Dead, which was cool. Like a celebratory, where like, it's finally come to fruition that he's a
TV zombie now.
He's a TV zombie, yeah. And then Brittany, I've done sketches with, and I've shot a lot of. She does her own sketches too that I've shot a lot of for her, and actually we're just submitting now a short film that we did together as well, me and Brittany. So yeah, so I love reusing those people. So I called them in, and then Rose very, again, sharply was like, hey, that's a lot of white people. Let's get some diversity.
Yeah.
And she had worked with Ryan. Rose is a producer for LinkedIn Learning, and she'd worked with Ryan on some LinkedIn Learning courses, and he was fantastic, and she showed me his reel, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. And so we just reached out, and he was like, yeah, of course, I'm totally interested. And so yeah, it was awesome. I don't like, for anyone who has not done the casting process, like actually doing the casting call, it's terrible. I tell you, it's grueling and brutal for everybody involved, because you're seeing all these people, and it's like, by the end of the day, you're like, I don't remember. Luckily you like record it usually so that you can go back and rewatch it. But you're like, I don't remember, like, I think I like this person. I don't remember. They've all blended into each other because they're all reading the same script.
Right.
And then it feels really like, I don't like being in a position where I'm like rejecting someone either, which I know actors are like used to. I have so many actor friends, but it's just so brutal to be like, yeah, no, you didn't get it just because of this or that, or you don't look the part or whatever. And it's so, it's like it's the icky part of filmmaking that I really don't like.
It's tough. And I mean, I have only limited experience with it. My spouse is an actress as well as doing a myriad of other things. And like, there have been several roles that like we've done auditions on tape over during the pandemic, and she was great, and she doesn't get cast. And half the time you never know why. Like you just don't, and then you don't hear anything. Totally. So I get it, and I have to imagine for the directors, the writers, and everybody else, like it's that process is, it's a dog and pony show essentially most of the time, and like you're trying to just see people, and it's hard to make it personal, right? Some people do, I hear, and I've heard that like Mike Schur is a showrunner who like really tries to make people feel comfortable, and like when he's casting, like makes it feel like it's an experience regardless, but not everyone can or has the ability to do that. And so it just seems like something that's definitely more complicated and above my pay grade, since I don't really understand it. Yeah. Before we shift to some of the other stuff that you do, I do want to talk about your most recent film that came out this year that I was very excited to get to see the premiere, the big premiere on YouTube and everything of, which is Joining Call, which was a short film that was not only filmed in quarantine, but also incepted and written in quarantine. It was created by you, and it was Pat Edwards, right? Wrote the script, previous guest of the show, and also co-host on your podcast. And it's a film about a D&D group that's playing over Zoom because they can't play in person, and the hilarity that can ensue of people's lives while trying to do a thing, because that was the thing we all experienced in the pandemic. Is like, how do we keep living and having fun while being stuck in front of a computer all the time because we can't see people in person? Talk a little bit about the process of creating Joining Call, because I was aware of Joining Call pretty much from the beginning, because you told us certain POV folks about it pretty early because you were excited about it and you were working on it, and we helped promote it on the network and stuff. Like, what was the process like, and how long did it take? When did you guys start working on it?
When did we start? Pat might remember when he started writing it. We shot in July, and I think there was like a month or two. There might have been like 2 months of pre-production, 2 or 3 before that. I'm not 100% sure on that. That feels right. But like a lot of the projects I do with Pat, it started as Pat texting me a joke and me being like, wait, that's actually really brilliant, and I think at first he was like pitching it as a sketch, and I was like, well, let's make it into a short film. And I think originally Pat was like, I can't remember how the D&D, Pat definitely came up with the D&D thing because he plays D&D, but I feel like maybe originally it was just a Zoom call, and then I was like, yeah, but people have already done that. And then he came up with the D&D part. And it was also like, as a creator, I was also like, not only were we all collectively going through this horrible experience together that, I wanted to bring joy into people's lives, but I was also mourning the fact that I, like everyone else, wasn't allowed to do the thing I love, filmmaking. Right. Because I didn't feel comfortable putting anyone at risk. Like I just couldn't, even if people were like, yeah, I'm totally fine, we'll wear masks. Like I couldn't live with myself if I knew somebody got COVID and died because I made a short film. That would just be the worst thing ever. So Pat pitched this idea of like a D&D group meeting over a Zoom call. And then we kind of workshopped it together, and we brought Rose in to produce it, who also helped us workshop it. And Pat really quickly, like I want to say like overnight, I don't know, came out with this first draft. And the cool thing that he did was he didn't assign gender, race, or ethnicity to any of the characters. They were just numbers. It was 1 through 7. I think it's 7 characters. I haven't talked about this film in a while. Trying to remember. And so that gave us like tremendous flexibility when it came to casting, because it was like, okay, this character can be male, female, gay, straight, you know, whatever, non-binary. They can be black. They can be whatever, Latino, white, whatever. And so we were able to go to people and just like, it was really open. Like originally, I think, you know, Pat and I are both straight, and we were thinking the couple was a straight couple, but then it was like, hey, what if it's a lesbian couple? Like, that's really cool. I know this one actress who would be great. Let's see if her partner is interested, because her partner, Angelique, actually she's not an actress.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's not. She's actually a director.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, and she's a director, writer. She's fantastic. And we were just like, would you be comfortable with doing this? Would you be interested? And she was like, yeah. And so I thought she was fantastic for someone who, you know, is not an actor. But yeah, so that gave us tremendous flexibility. And then, you know, the main prerequisite was you must have a good microphone. So a lot of the actors are podcasters or Twitch streamers or YouTubers or filmmakers who already had good microphones, and then the final prerequisite was you must have some sort of camera. But that one we were a lot more flexible on, because, you know, the audio quality was more important, because we're so used to seeing shitty Zoom video, you know. It's fine. So some of the actors even shot on iPhones, and some of them shot on cinema level cameras. Like Iffy was shooting on a C100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, you know, it's so interesting, because you watch it and like, I don't find it obvious, you know, like super obvious. Like I know who shot on what, but like, you know, it all looks pretty good, because we spent a lot of time. We would have meetings with the actors, Rose, Pat, and I, and we would, you know, again, we shot the whole thing virtually, so that they had to shoot and record their own audio, and they had to set dress their own backgrounds, and they had to light them their own selves. But we spent a lot of time walking through people's houses virtually and being like, okay, here's the spot with the best lighting. We're going to send you another light. Here's how you set it up. And here's the angle, the camera angle we want. And here's your, you know, we would talk through their costume wardrobes and have like fittings. And the funniest one was Matt Young had to send me test clips of him standing up so we could see his boxers, because actually the position, he's in his living room. It looks like an office, but it's actually his living room that he like made a fake desk. So it looks like he has a fake desk there, but like the angle wasn't right. And so we had to like figure out the angle just right for him to stand up so that we could see the boxers.
Right.
And so I'm like watching this test video of Matt going like, okay, Ash, how about this? And then he stands up and shows me his boxers, and it's just like multiple of these.
That's amazing.
It was so ridiculous. But yeah, it was such a technical feat, because some of them had never recorded video before. And so it was a whole new world of challenging to explain over the internet to someone without touching a camera what their camera settings should be, you know. So it was as a director, that was very challenging for me, for sure.
Would you say it was harder to direct this than other films in person?
It was harder for different reasons.
Okay.
because like normally when I'm on set, I'm the one, like usually I shoot my own stuff too, unless I happen to have a cinematographer on board. So, I'm the one that can problem solve all the technical issues, and it's not a problem versus, for this, it's like someone's like, oh, I don't know, something's wrong with my camera. And it's like, okay, I've never actually used your camera because I don't own your camera. So number one, that's hard. So I'm like Googling, and watching YouTube videos. Yep. And number two, I can't see your camera. So it was a lot of like, okay, hold it up to the screen so that I can see
it. Yeah.
And then the other challenge was we wanted higher quality footage so that it looked as good as it could. So nobody was actually shooting with their computer camera.
Right.
Everyone was shooting with another physical camera. So I, as the director, when we shot, we used Discord as our chat so that we could all talk to each other. But I could not actually see the final frame until I got the footage from everyone. So that was like really terrifying as well, because I'm like, I'm hoping you framed it well, like,
because if you didn't, then you won't know.
Yeah. And I did have some of the actors send test footage, and I really wish that I had, if I did it again, I would require everyone to send me test footage, because there were little things that you would never know from the finished film. But again, Kiri and Angelique, the couple in the film, the string lights behind them actually strobed, and I couldn't tell through Discord, but on the footage they're doing like a horrible, like, I don't know if you've ever seen, like, sometimes you can record a light or whatever and you can almost see this like band of light.
This weird like banding effect.
Yes. So they were doing that. And I had to fix it in post. But if I had done a test shot with them,
you would have known.
I would have known. Yeah. So
interesting.
I learned some lessons there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the final film is fantastic, and as someone who plays D&D remotely, though not often on a Zoom call, we usually will have some kind of like, there's a popular program called Roll20 where you can pull up maps and everything and roll the dice digitally, and so I'll usually use that, and I'll be on voice chat with folks. But it was fun to watch people try and do it with the video on and all this stuff going wrong. And of course, I had the pleasure through you and your incredible connections having the incredible Matt Young and Brandon Hertzberger, both people who were in the movie as guests on Screen Snark. If you go over to Screen Snark at certainpov.com, you can listen to those
pause
episodes.
This podcast.
And then go listen to those and then come back. Oh, I love a running gag. But they were both delightful and had nothing but great things to say about you and how kind you are and how great you are. But I really genuinely love this film. It's just...
Me too.
You know what I love about it is that if you know about D&D, it's funnier because of this happens at the table even if you're in the same place. If you're playing with friends, if you've been playing with friends long enough, you're going to their house where their kid might be sleeping in the other room and will walk in while you're playing, who knows? But the fact that over video, of course, there are even more things because we're all in our own homes. But everyone's been on a video call where shit goes wrong. It doesn't have to be a D&D game. And so there's a relatability to that too. And like, I love the characterization of all of the actors, but none of them were caricatures. Like, you had the overeager guy, you had the guy who's really excited but doesn't know what he's doing. But like, none of them were cliches of their race, gender, sexuality, whatever. Like, they all were just, and I guess it goes back to how Pat wrote it, the fact that he didn't label any of them, which I wish more writers would do, honestly, because I feel like unless you're writing a certain kind of love story, and even then I feel like it doesn't matter anymore. And giving directors and casting and other folks that kind of freedom, like, it's one thing if you're writing something for Keanu Reeves, then it's gonna it's gonna be Keanu Reeves, but not for smaller stuff. Like, this is a brilliant idea to just, these are templates, let's put a human in them.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. It was very cool. It was the first time I've ever done a project like that, and I really, really loved it, and I'd love to keep doing that. I'm working on a narrative podcast now where we're gender bending as well, because it's a historical story, and so we're taking like sort of the Hamilton approach, but even farther, where we're saying like, okay, but what if it was a woman,
Right.
Which is fun. But yeah, it was so freeing, really, for casting. And then also, it left the actors with all they had was the personality. And they were able to layer on so much more. They were like, okay, I have the personality. Now I can create who this person is. And we were very careful. We wanted to break stereotypes. We very specifically said the DM is going to be a woman. That one we were like, yes, because it's so stereotypical, especially in media today. I mean, like Stranger Things or whatever, you're always seeing a male dungeon master. Yeah. And so we were like, that one, we were like, we want to break this stereotype. We don't want anyone to be a stereotype. And we told that to the actors, and they took it and ran with it. And one example is Brandon was like, oh, well, I have a friend who's, he's very country and Southern, but he plays D&D. And I think that's really cool to like represent that person. And we're like, great. And so he added this whole Southern, and he is from Texas too. Yeah. And this whole Southern flair to it that I think made that character so unique and different. And then Brittany from Zombie Debt plays his off-screen wife. Yeah. And she's also from Texas. So amazing. It was so perfect. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I really, and like, I felt like I could relate to a lot of the characters. Like I saw myself in a lot of characters or people I've played with or done gaming with or even watched movies with who like fit those like those roles within the D&D group or the friend group. Yeah, it's really cool. If y'all haven't still at this point, even though we told you already, watched that movie, you can just go to ashblodgett.com and you can watch all this stuff.
You can find them there.
All of them are there.
Or Laugh Stash TV on YouTube. I think they're all there.
You do some other stuff besides film. You are an incredibly prolific podcaster. Not only are you content to be a part of an incredible ensemble podcast, but you are working on 2 different podcasts. One that is definitely in the works, and then one that's ruminating.
That's a nice way of saying it.
Look, everything starts with an ideal, right? But what I wanted to talk a little bit about Let's Rewatch, because I asked Pat about this a bit, and I've chatted with Brett and Sam on other podcasts as well. What is it that's special about Let's Rewatch to you? Because for me, it's the fact, like the coolest thing about that podcast is when I found out that you record the first half impressions, stop in real time, watch the movie, and then come back and talk about it is such a brilliant idea for a show and is what made me want to be a part of it, especially with a movie like Army of Darkness, where I love that movie and I still came back afterwards and went, I'm so sorry, guys. Like, I love this movie, but I'm so sorry. Like that kind of effect. But like, what is special about this movie podcast to you?
Yeah, I will say on a side note of that's like a thing we've recently started warning people is like, do not bring your favorite movie. Yeah. Do not do that. That will be bad. Anyway, but the idea for the podcast was originally one of our original hosts, Nick. He came up with the idea, and it sort of sprung from the fact that I had actually not seen a lot of movies that he had seen. There was a generational gap between us, and so there was a lot of stuff that he had grown up with that I had not grown up with. And so he came up with this idea, and the 4 of us were already like a friend group, and it was like just a really it was a period of my life, I guess I'm still going through that period, where if you wanted to hang out with me, we must make content.
Hello. Hi. Here we are making content together.
You don't understand that at all, right? No.
Yeah, no, not even a little bit. Rachel and I only became better friends because we started talking every 2 weeks because we had to make a podcast.
Yeah. And so we started doing the show, and I think it was Nick's idea as well, this idea of like almost a science experiment where it's like, okay, there's these films, and I think it sprung out of like, there were a couple times where he sat me and my boyfriend down and was like, watch this movie that I loved, what I grew up with. And we're like, this is terrible. Like, I gotta tell you, as someone who did not grow up with Nightmare on Elm Street, that movie does not hold up to me and is terrible. And I don't understand people's obsession with it. And I even love horror movies, but I was like, this is bad. But anyway, you don't at me, okay? I don't want to talk about it. But so he had this like idea of almost like a science experiment where it's like, well, what if we watch these films and we have this rule that it has to be at least 10 years old, because then it's really like a social experiment, and it has to be, and it's not like fresh in your mind, and it has to be something that you haven't seen in a while but you remember really liking. Again, don't bring your favorite movie because that always ends poorly. But anyway, and if it's your favorite movie, you've probably seen it recently. Let's be honest. So
for the record, I remembered what my first appearance was, and it is one of my favorite movies. It was Wayne's World.
Oh, that one was good though. That time it went well.
It did go well.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was my idea. I think there was voting for that one, or you guys offered a few movies and I picked one. Wasn't it the favorite movie that I brought was Scott Pilgrim, where it was still around the 8-year mark, and I started saying then, when this is at 10 years, you gotta talk about it, because pretty much, and I think it was one of the few movies where like everyone on the podcast knew it and more or less really loved it on some level.
Yeah.
And more or less still loved it after, which was nice. There were some problems, but like all in all, fair.
Overall, it's not too bad. And we do make exceptions from time to time. Like another rule is like we usually say, don't bring a movie that is universally renowned as a good movie. So like we will never do The Godfather, you know, because that's considered one of the best films ever made.
Right.
And Star Wars used to be on our list of we will never do this movie, but then we broke that rule with Ian and we decided to do I think we watched all of them. Yeah. Like all of them, and then did one episode for it. But yeah, it's a really fun idea. It's fun. It's really shocking. I think it shows a lot. Like, we don't really talk about it from a scientific perspective, really, but I think it shows a lot about like memory and nostalgia. And it's really, the big question is this movie really good, or are you just nostalgic for it? And so it works the best when at least someone in the group has never seen the movie, because then you get a fresh, modern perspective on the film from someone who doesn't bring any baggage, which I think is good.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys have had a lot of guests that are like, I know this movie is not great, but I really love it. And like, I think those conversations are my favorite. Like the fact that we talked about the racism in Scott Pilgrim and how it's not okay. It wasn't okay then. It's not okay now.
Yeah.
But like, part of it was to show that Scott was an asshole, and also it's okay to like something problematic as long as you acknowledge it's problematic and discuss how it could be better. And you guys do that a lot. I mean, it's very funny to me that you and Sam, of course, are always very quickly like, all right, let's see how quickly, let's see how few women there are, if they speak, and if any of them have agency. And like, more often than not, you're right that the women don't, because unfortunately films before like 1990, and even then,
even in the early like 95, even around then,
and I mean even now, but like I appreciate that no one's there to make anyone feel like crap, but just the same, you're not afraid to call out problematic crap when you see it and talk about it. And you don't just say this is terrible, cancel it. You're like, let's talk about it, let's have a conversation. I'm uncomfortable because of this, I'm uncomfortable because of that. I like that. I like those kind of discussions. Because as you know as well as I do, being online as much as I am, Twitter, there's not a lot of nuance, and a lot of people just like to crap on things for the sake of it. And I like nuanced conversations, which is exactly what Let's Rewatch is. I mean, not to keep touting my own episodes, but the Dark Knight episode, like me,
but you should listen to them.
You should right now. But Brett and I had a really great conversation about the problems with the Dark Knight and how it's aged poorly, and how the modern like incel and that kind of culture, especially during the Trump era, was a problem and viewed differently now. Like, I like that. I like that y'all aren't afraid to have that kind of nitty-gritty conversation that might not be easy to have, and argue a little to get to where you're at an understanding, or you can like talk about the ideas that are in the movie.
Yeah, and that honestly took a really long time to get to that point. Behind the scenes. A rule kind of among us hosts that's sort of like an unspoken rule is like, we never say, I completely disagree, or we never say anything really confrontational.
Right.
You know, we try to be like, I see your point, but, you know, instead of being like, I think it was Brett, I think, came up with these like rules of like, and I mean, I wouldn't call them rules, but like general guidelines of never say I disagree and never say you're wrong. You know,
Right.
unless we're like saying it jokingly, but which we do. But like, I think that really helps keep the conversation positive. And then also Pat does a really good job of framing whenever we have a guest, making sure that they enter with the frame of mind of, hey, we're not here to like shit on this piece of media. You know, that's not the goal. Like, we want to have a good time. We want to like the movie. I'd want to watch a good movie, but we also have to talk about, you know, the things. But, you know, we're not here to like shit on your favorite movie and just be negative about it. Like, we're going to like try to have a real like intelligent conversation about it. And I think what's also cool is like the four of us come from such different perspectives usually too, you know? And so, you know, we all have like different things that we're usually like pointing out pretty regularly that the others maybe miss or whatever. Like Brett always has a completely different take on something than the rest of us.
Yeah, I love that also there are running gags like, you know, screwing up the outro at the end, or like things that have just become a bit, not only because they are bits, like most of the time, like you genuinely forget things and it's funny because it just happens and it's fine. I forget outros to podcasts all the time. But I also like that because of your different backgrounds, like if you're watching something animated or something Pixar, guarantee Sam's got some kind of story, either from someone she knows or someone through the industry, or just she's a really big fan of it, you know, whereas like the cinematography is something you'll always talk about because you're looking for that kind of stuff. Like I like that you each bring something different and dynamic to the conversation. Pat's a total clown and is just a joker, and you know, I love you, Pat. He's not going to listen to this. It's fine. But yeah, no, I really think that it's become my favorite movie podcast because it's just something different, but also because you genuinely not only care about your audience and the guests, but you care about the material. Nothing, even if something is terrible, like Boondock Saints, for example, which has not aged well, you could have just sat there going, this is a bad movie, and that would have been acceptable because it is a bad movie, but you didn't. You talked about why it was bad, what the problems were, not necessarily how you'd fix it, but like why you think that maybe you liked it, but now you don't. Like, I love all of that stuff. Yeah. I think it's a better listen than just someone going, it stinks. Like, who wants to listen to that?
Yeah, it's like, I feel like it's really developed my like critical thinking too, where it's like if I don't like something, I can really dig deep and be like, well, why don't I like it? Well, I don't like it because of this and this and this, and because this means that, you know, like, and here's like a real life example of how this is bad. And I've noticed that because of the podcast, I feel like I'm like hypersensitive to things because we've spent years pointing them out in film, you know? And so like I've definitely had situations, like work situations, where I'm like, hey, this isn't actually a cool thing, and people are like, oh, I never thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, it's not cool because of this and that and that, and they're like, you're totally right, you know? And I think it just forces you to look at things beyond the surface face value, which I think is really, really great.
I do too.
Just a good mental exercise.
Yeah, working those brain muscles. I want to shift gears a little bit because I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about your YouTube work, because while you hinted at earlier that Last Dash TV is kind of in a holding pattern to some degree, you are still working very diligently on an incredible YouTube channel called Film It Yourself.
Thank
you. I, as someone with literally no knowledge of the film industry other than ancillary peripheral knowledge, your videos are so fascinating because you're still trying to do bits and comedy because that's at your core, I feel like. But you're also genuinely educating people about how to produce, how to do a line read, how to do casting, how to set up a camera, how to set up lighting. What made you want to do this? Because you started this either shortly before the pandemic or during the pandemic. What was the inspiration for this additional YouTube channel?
Yeah, so I'm also a LinkedIn learning instructor. So I've started making instructional videos where I did a whole course called YouTube Tips Weekly, where it's a very like it's you can see it's the blueprint for what Film It Yourself became.
Right.
It's the same thing, same idea, but it's all YouTube centric stuff. And so through doing that, I really was able to hone like this format and my comedy and really develop the education. And then I was like, Laugh Stash TV, it is great and I'm really proud of it, but it's so hard to pump out high quality content. And also I made the problem of making the channel too diverse. It's not focused on one topic. It's got a cooking show, it's got a drinking show, it's got sketches, it's got parodies, it's got Comic-Con interviews, it's got vlogs, it's all over the place. And I made that mistake of not making a super focused channel, and through making all these mistakes I was able to do YouTube Tips Weekly and be like, here's what you need to actually do. And so I really wanted to I started thinking about making a new channel, and I wanted to make it about filmmaking, because the best tip when starting a YouTube channel is it needs to be something you're passionate about. Yep. Because you will burn out. Even if it's something you're passionate about, you probably will still go through a little bit of a burnout. So it has to be something that you really care about and that you can talk about endlessly. And for me, that's filmmaking. And so, and everybody, my LinkedIn Learning series got such a positive reaction. Like, people would reach out to me and be like, I love your series. I really love it. Like, it's so fun. And so I was like, okay, I want to do this for filmmaking, because also as an indie filmmaker, so often I'm asking friends to come help, right?
Yeah.
Friends who didn't go to film school, who don't know all these things, and I don't have time to educate you on set all the time, you know? And that was kind of frustrating to me sometimes, where it's like, I don't have time to teach you how to read a line script, or I don't have time to teach you like the proper order of operations on set, you know, or how to slate. Like, oh my God, I can't tell you how many people don't know how to slate properly, and it drives me crazy. Anyway, so I was like, well, I'm going to like make this series. And I actually spent an entire year in pre-production of figuring out what I wanted Film It Yourself to look like, what I wanted it to be called, the format of the videos, down to the color, you know, like the colors I use and the logo. And like, I spent a very long time prepping it to before I sent it out in the world. So I'm very proud of it, because I think they're night and day. Like, you know, you can look at Laugh Stash. I mean, Laugh Stash TV is incredibly successful. I'm not saying it's not, but you can, you know, I feel like they're very different examples of how to do certain things on YouTube, I guess. Because in some senses, Laugh Stash TV is very successful at making viral videos. You know, that's what it's successful at. But it wasn't successful at making a community.
Right.
And so I really wanted to make a community. And I really love, one thing I didn't realize until I started doing these LinkedIn Learning courses was that I actually really love teaching people, and that it feels really good to have someone come to you and say, hey, thank you, this helped me, you know? I guess that's that whole like selfish thing of, did you really do a helpful act, or is it selfish? But whatever.
It's fine. It can be both.
Yeah.
It can be both. Humans are complicated.
Totally. And so, I started doing them, a large portion of them in quarantine for sure. I shot several before releasing too. Mm-hmm. And I currently have a back catalog of them that I shot. I haven't shot many new ones this year, because I'm still like working through a back catalog, though it's getting close, and I'm like, I need to shoot more. But yeah, and then, you know, I sort of developed that like there'll be two characters. There's me and my dog, and we're making films together. And I don't, you know, I will put anyone in anything in a video, I guess. And so Spence is a character. on the YouTube channel.
I'm very fond of you, Ash, but I have to be honest. Spence is my favorite character. I'm sorry.
I know. It's always Brett or Spence. I'm never the favorite.
Sorry.
It's okay. He's very charming, and he hated it at first, and now he really loves being in sketches, and like
That's
he
amazing.
will. Yeah, I'll pull up a chair and he will instantly jump in it and be like, "Need me to be in the chair? Do you need me to wear something? I'm so ready. Let's film."
I also love on Twitter how you started something called Marvel Quest on Twitter, where it stemmed out of you had only seen a couple of Marvel movies. All of your co-hosts and other folks like myself kept yelling at you about how great the Marvel films were, and you're like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right. And so you started from Iron Man and watched them all.
No, we watched them chronologically.
Oh, you watched them in chronological order. That's right. So, but when you started, and this, I guess, leads into Film It Yourself, you started doing photos of the Netflix or Hulu or DVD like
thumbnail
and like just holding Spence or like you like just posing these things to recreate these Marvel things, which were really charming. And now you've gone on to start watching the Fast and the Furious movies, and that hasn't stopped you. You're making fun of those thumbnails as well.
Yeah.
I love that you documented your film experience on Twitter. Do you think you're going to keep doing more of that kind of thing and like sharing with your community the kinds of stuff that you're into or the things you're discovering?
Totally. Yeah. I will admit that I haven't been, and you will even say that I wasn't super active before, and I feel like I haven't been super active this year. Like I've taken a little bit of a mental break from the social media, but absolutely, like I love doing the movie quests. I mean, anytime I can put a wig on my dog,
it's just gold. Always funny. Wig on a dog, always funny.
And it also it became this really fun thing for my boyfriend and I to do in quarantine. And also it was a really fun thing to do to connect. Like, I love Twitter. My Twitter followers are like the best. And they I know Twitter can be a super toxic place, and I'm very lucky that I've cultivated this like little community on Twitter of like really positive people who are very supportive. And so they just have a field day, like whenever we do a movie quest, and they love, like, what I do is I live tweet while we watch the movie.
Right.
And usually I think always actually, not always, because we did some Halloween ones that I'd seen, but usually it's a movie I've never seen before. And so, I'm A, probably drinking, and B, I have never seen it before and full of jokes. And so I'm like live tweeting silly jokes, and it became this like fun thing where my boyfriend and I would make pizza, and then we would take this like thumbnail shot with Spence, and Spence would be so into it too. And I would like the costumes, because we were in quarantine, the costumes were always like, what's the shittiest costume that I can pull together?
What's the dumbest way I can make this thing look? Like, how bad can I make it look?
I think that's so funny.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's like okay, what did I do? I think I was oh my God, I can't remember the bad guy's name now.
From which movie?
From Endgame. What's his name?
Thanos.
Thank you, Thanos. I was Thanos, and I think I put like a bra on over a shirt or whatever, and I like drew he has like these weird lines on his chin that I like drew, and just like, what's the shittiest way I can get across
that I'm this character.
Yeah, and I think it's hysterical. And we just have such a good time. It's so fun. We haven't done one in a while, because I think we just have one Fast and Furious movie left.
Until the new one comes out in theaters.
Until the new one, yeah.
Then you'll have to take a photo in the theater.
In the theater, yeah.
Yeah, and embarrass everyone.
We can't bring Spence, though.
Oh, no, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Spence.
Can't do it without him.
That's true. Before we start to wrap up, I wanted to ask, since you are a filmmaker and a fan of films, is there any movies in quarantine that have really spoken to you? Something that's kind of jumped out at you that you'd never seen before, that you're rewatching because you love?
Yeah, So one thing we did, I mean, first off, obviously the Marvel films, like,
right.
Holy shit, I had no idea. And they were so comforting at like the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And my boyfriend and I are already like, we should watch them over again. We're so excited. We definitely want to. And we actually, his mom and stepdad hadn't seen them. And kind of the same thing where like they'd seen a few random ones like me and they're like, I don't know, I don't get it. And I was like, no. Here, watch them in this order. It's going to be great. And now they're huge Marvel fans too. Yeah. And so highly recommend watch it in chronological order. It's so worth it. Not theatrical release. I know, all you Marvel fans, but whatever. But for the people who don't understand, it helps when they're like, remember that thing that just happened? And I'm like, yeah, that was in the last movie. I do remember it. You know, that really helps me. Okay.
Totally.
Anyway, but like also, and I feel really weird about this now, because it turns out she's a terrible person. But for Christmas, we watched all the Harry Potter movies. And I just, that's definitely close to my heart. But also I feel conflicted because she's apparently a monster.
J.K. Rowling is a monster and a turf, yes.
Yeah.
She is.
And I really had no idea how much she was until I'd vaguely heard, oh wow, okay, she's anti-trans. But then I watched this video that broke it down and I was like, oh my god, I had no idea. This is really bad. And now I feel conflicted about my love of Harry Potter, but I do still love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that you're conflicted makes sense. I think if you're not giving her money and you own these things already, that's fine. But everyone's got to do what they're going to, right? There's no ethical consumption under capitalism, but, I think maybe not buying any new things from JK is a pretty good firm stance, but loving the things you have makes sense on a level, I also, that said, I am not faulting anyone for writing her off, because you absolutely have every right to do that, because she's a terrible person.
Totally. Yeah. So anyway, I feel bad that that's the example that I brought to mind.
No, it's fine.
I will say also, though, for Halloween this year, because I love Halloween, and it's my favorite holiday, and usually we go to Universal Horror Nights, and that's our tradition, and obviously we couldn't during quarantine. So I subjected my boyfriend to watching horror films all month long, which was actually so much fun, and he loved it. But we watched a lot of 80s horror, and so we watched The Thing, the John Carpenter The Thing. Mm-hmm. We watched what else? We watched this wasn't for Halloween, but we watched Escape from New York, and I had never really seen a ton of John Carpenter, and I was just loving it. Oh, and we watched the original, oh my god, my brain, the one where people are being murdered by the lake. The classic. Not Friday the 13th, is it? Friday the 13th? My boyfriend is shaking his head. At Lake Placid, right? Yes, he's shaking his head. Friday the 13th. We watched that, and oh my god, I had so much fun. That was a blast. So it was just we watched all the old school campy horror movies, which was just so fun. I love comedy, but I also love horror. It's one of my faves.
I mean, I feel like the best horror is going to make you laugh at times too, because then it makes the devastating stuff even more so.
Well, and I love the over-the-top horror where it's that was someone's head explodes, but you totally know it's a balloon. You know what I mean? That is my favorite. I love that. Yeah. Because I just laugh. It's so funny.
You have to laugh at that stuff now. It's just so silly. Before I have you tell people where they can find you and sign off. I have one final question that I've been asking most of the guests when I can remember to ask it, because, all our brains are fried at this point.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But so the quarantine.
Who are you again?
Huh? What? Wait, where am I? The quarantine's been pretty ubiquitously bad. It sucked. It's ruined a lot of shit. It's done a lot of damage. And the last couple years in general have just been really rough on a lot of levels for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So I found it important to ask folks what good things came out of this time. Obviously, it's all bad, but if there's one good thing that what was the best thing that happened during quarantine, or a thing that happened because you were home more, what was a really good thing to come out of this pretty terrible time, all in all?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, actually, I guess I have two answers.
Okay.
One is definitely Jordy Call, because it was such a pleasure working with everyone on that film. It was so fun working with Pat and Rose. They're just like the best team. And now we're like a little team and plotting more films together. And it also allowed me to cast and work with actors that I normally wouldn't be able to, because like Matt Young is in Chicago, and I think we had Timmy Morgan, who was in Philadelphia. Like I think we had like people in like 4 or 5 different states, like all working together on this one film, and all on an actual video call while we do it. And so that was really amazing to like have this opportunity and still be like, the world is really shitty and shut down. And how amazing that we're all experiencing this. Like when has the entire world experienced one thing together like that ever before, besides maybe a world war or something? But, like it was a really special moment to capture in time. And it just felt really wonderful being able to work with all those people. And then the other thing is, I'm the weirdo who worked out during quarantine. And so that's the other thing for me is I started, I had already lost some weight, well, quite a bit of weight the year or 2 before quarantine. But in quarantine, I probably lost like 10 pounds. I'm like the one person that lost weight. But more importantly, I started like doing HIIT training and lifting weights. And, I was like, I can't go outside, but I still want to be like active. Because before that, I was doing like 2-mile hikes and every day. And like I walked and I did a lot of hikes and walks all the time. And at first, my boyfriend and I were like not going outside at all because we just weren't sure, very early on. So I started working out and I fell in love with it. And now I've got like these big guns, and I feel like I look so much better and I feel so much healthier. And I'm kind of addicted to lifting weights now, but I really enjoyed it. It was like, it was a cool thing that I never thought I would do. Like if you came to me like 4 years ago and was like, you're going to be super into like strength training, I would have been like, no, yeah. I'm too lazy for that. What are you talking about? And I'm still very lazy. The trick is you have to work out in the morning before you've completely woken up so that you can't convince yourself not to do it. That's the trick. That's what I do.
I appreciate that insight. Yeah. I mean, ultimately you want to do that kind of stuff so you feel good about you, right? And you feel you look good, because there's no rule or barometer for that. It's about how you feel. And I think that's how we all survive the quarantine, right? Is doing things that make us feel good. And if they happen to also make us a little healthier, that's not a terrible thing either.
Yeah, totally.
Well, Ash, this has been lovely. We've been talking for an hour already, and yet
like it went by so fast.
And yet we haven't talked about video games. We haven't talked there's so many things we haven't talked about. So I'll have to bring you back. I know it's terrible, right? You'll just have to talk to me again.
That's okay. I'll start emailing you now.
Perfect. Awesome. Do it. But before we go, I would love for you to tell folks where they can find you and your work on the internet, where they can check out your stuff, follow you on social media, that kind of stuff. Hit them with the plugs.
Yeah. So on Twitter, I'm at Ash's Stash, and that's ASHSSHASH. Yes, that's correct. I think that's correct. And that's me on Twitter. Twitter's my main jam, though I have started doing Instagram again, which I was, dumb, and they are not the same handle. So on Instagram, I'm at moose_ash. So it's like mustache. What you can do is you can just Google Ash Blodgett, and I'm the most famous one on the internet. It's what I tell people.
True.
Like,
it's true.
I'm the one with the followers. That's if you see that, that's me. I generally pop up first. But yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to make it. I'm not famous. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying compared to the other ones. Yeah. So, those are my main jam. And then I have the YouTube channel Film It Yourself, where I post every Friday. There's a new video. And then I also have Laugh TV, which I already said. You can find all of my short films on Laugh TV. And then and my like comedy parodies, sketches, drinking, all that stuff. If you just need more of me in your life. And then I do the podcast, Let's Rewatch. And then I also have another narrative podcast that's coming out soon. So keep an eye out for that one. That one I'm very excited about. But it's probably like a really long time away. So I'm sorry.
It's I've heard the pitch. It's really good. I'm excited about it. Ash and I had talked about it during quarantine. And so, yes, I can't wait for y'all to hear that. You can find more information about Ash Blodgett on her website also, ashblodgett.com.
Yeah. That's honestly probably the best place. Oh, I think there's actually even shows Manifest Destiny on there.
Does.
That's the narrative podcast.
Yes.
That's I am not at liberty to say too much about. But we did finish editing the first episode, which is very excited.
Cool.
It's all edited with sound effects. And I did the sound design, which was like a new... I mean, I've done sound design for film, but it was a new adventure that to do it, completely paint a world out of sound. And it was really fun.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait for folks to hear that. Ash, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. You've genuinely become one of my favorite humans on the internet. And I'm hoping someday, now that the quarantine is, knock on wood, winding down,
yeah,
I can come out to California and actually hang out with you in person. So.
Oh, fun. Yeah, I keep being like, I need to submit to New York Film Festival. So I really come see Matt. Yeah. Yeah.
Come hang out.
So fun.
But before I let you go, we have a saying on the podcast, and I would love for you to do the sign off. It's this idea that as long as you're making stuff, even when times are tough, you can find solace and good in creating, in making a thing. And so the saying is... I don't relate
to that at all.
No, not at all, right? Neither does the guy who produces a podcast.
Podcast?
Eight.
Oh, okay, eight. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's more than one.
No, not a podcast. I don't even host a podcast. The saying is, music is life and life is good. And it's, again, this idea that as you're making stuff, life isn't that bad. So if you could say that for me and sign us off, I would greatly appreciate it.
All right. Music is life and life is good.
That's it for this episode of CPOV Autographs. Our theme music is by Michael Kill. Our logo was designed by Case Aiken and Joey Mons. If you liked the show, please rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. It's a great way to help us reach more listeners. Questions, comments, or guest recommendations? Email mr.nat.storm@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter at CPOV Autographs. Thank you so much for listening.
This is We Burlesque.
Hi, this is Victor Vaughn, and I run the We Burlesque Podcast Network. I am currently in my 5th season of the We Burlesque Podcast, which began, so many episodes ago, and I've been so delighted and intrigued to learn about our colleagues and our friends in the industry, to find out where we began, where we're going, what we've done, and especially in the last year, what we haven't done. So if you enjoy being a wallflower in the dressing room and hearing all about what we do, why we do it, and what's left to do, please go to Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google, Libsyn, and probably some other ones I don't even know about. Oh, we're on Audible now. How neat is that? We're on frickin' Audible. So go to your platform of choice, hit subscribe when you find We Burlesque. That's WEBURLESQUE. I should know how to spell it by now. Or you can go to WeBurlesquePodcast.com. That's all one word. That's WEBURLESQUEPODCAST.com. Yeah, that should do it. Or on Instagram at WEBURLESQUE. That's it. Hi. So anyway, be well, be safe, and let's talk.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.